page report. Sometimes they're in something as small as a 4-line poem about a bug.
That's right. Our mission today is a very precise one. We are diving deep into a single, beautifully crafted Tamil poem and the life of its creator, Kalashi Jayasekaran.
Yeah.
We want to analyze how scientific observation, literary metaphor, and, well, his own personal background all converge into this single, really surprising work of art.
The source material is twofold. We have the poem itself, which we're just calling text, and then a detailed biographical profile of the author. And what immediately hooked me is the intellectual architecture of it all.
Yes.
We're not just dealing with sentimentality here, are we? It's all about precision.
Exactly, and what's fascinating is how he achieves this. We get to analyze a text that operates simultaneously on this, high emotional level of metaphor, but also on the meticulous factual level of scientific observation. It allows us to go beyond just enjoying the poem and to really understand the intellectual foundation that built it.
Okay, let's unpack this author first, because his background really feels like the blueprint for the entire piece. Kalashi Jayasekaran is clearly a celebrated figure. He's noted as a famous writer in Kalashi, and he's known for poems described as engaging and flavorful in both English and Tamil, earning him international praise on that on the internet. He's clearly a master communicator, which you'd expect from a poet, but when we look at his education, that's when you see why his poetry has such density. He holds an MA in English, so a focus on literature and language, and also an English teaching qualification from Madras University. That gives him the linguistic power, the tools to articulate these complex feelings.
But here's the kicker, right? The piece of information that just unlocks this entire poem for me is his BSc in zoology.
He completed it at Allegheny College. And it's that science degree that shifts the entire context of his nature writing. He's not just an admirer of the natural world, he's a trained observer of it.
It is absolutely key. I mean, think about it. A typical poet might describe a bee in very general terms. It's busy, it's buzzing, it's flitting around.
Sure, yeah.
But a trained zoologist approaches observation with a rigor that captures specific behavior, territory, function. This dual education perfectly explains why the poem isn't just sentimental. It contains precise, informed, natural observation, but it's wrapped in this highly sophisticated literary language.
So he understands the mechanism before he assigns the metaphor.
That's a perfect way to put it. It turns the subject from, a vague object of beauty into an active, functional agent.
I see the connection there. His knowledge of the biological role gives the metaphor a concrete foundation that, a lot of other nature poems might lack. Okay, let's move into the poem itself. Let's focus first on the protagonist, the bee, or Emu. The sources describe the bee's environment and behavior in these highly specific, almost proprietary terms. It really suggests that this isn't just some random insect.
Not at all. It suggests the bee is a professional, a highly specialized agent. The source describes it as having a specific area, a catalog, or territory.
About
Right, and a traditional boundary and boundary that it keeps. This points to a deep scientific understanding of insect ecology, the very concept of territory, not just random walk.
And there's an immediate implication about the safety of this territory. The text specifies that in this domain, there is no one to cause trouble, or no enemy.
Why can't a contest the path that will cause trouble to computer? Why include a detail like that?
Well, it establishes the condition for success, doesn't it? The bee operates with impunity. It's free to focus completely on its mission. It exists in this idealized, focused state.
And how does it announce this state? Through sound. Humming. The
The
Yes. It's described as proclaiming its charm or elegance, its dependent content. The sound itself is a declaration of status and purpose.
Okay, that tracks. The sound isn't just incidental noise. It's a confident proclamation of presence, and it's happening within a secure territory. Now let's get to the most compelling aspect of the bee's character, and this connects directly back to that zoology degree.
Its expertise.
Exactly, its expertise. The bee is depicted as possessing specialized knowledge. The poem states that the bee knows the residence of the flowers. You get this right. Guess the topic is Alice B. Webster.
Yes,
It's just really open end town, tail end of the young.
Yes, and that's not guesswork, it's knowledge.
And it gets even more technical than just knowing where the flowers are. It's about quality control. The text adds that the bee has prior knowledge of the variety and taste of honey. The line is, the Mucosa.
And this is a textbook reflection of a specialized pollinator. This insect has learned, it has mapped, it has prioritized resources based on previous successful interactions. It's an agent of discovery, sure, but it's also a resource assessor.
Wow.
This informed detail is so crucial because it grounds the coming metaphor in observable scientific reality. So when the poet uses the bee later as an analogy for, say, a respectful lover or a purposeful scholar, we know this subject is already an expert in its own domain.
That makes perfect sense. So since we've established the bee isn't just a random buzzer, but this expert agent with a secure territory, how does this specialized knowledge influence the actual interaction, the Garadian relationship itself?
This is where we shift. We move from the bee's action to the flower's reaction, and the language becomes deeply sensory. The description of the flower's response is incredibly physical. The source notes that the Philly created a kind of private space. And when the bee approaches, even if the petal edges tingle, it says, "Kokobanat." The petal edges tingle. It says, "Come on, we're coming in."
That detail about the tingling is so intimate. It transforms the arrival from just a landing into this highly anticipated physical sensory event. There's no passive waiting here.
Absolutely not. The flower is active. It is not just a receptacle waiting to be visited. I love the agency that the poet gives the flower when he describes how they spread magnetic nets. What way they get to spawn the bee?
Magnetic nets, that is such a powerful choice of language. It suggests this active, purposeful attraction where the flower is employing its scent, its color, its structure.
Its biological tools.
Yes, all its tools to draw in the specific specialized agent it needs.
It highlights that mutual necessity. The flower needs the bee's knowledge and action for its own biological fulfillment. And when that transaction happens, the arrival of the bee creates a powerful vibration or resonance, described as. Hey, what's that?
Oh, the Chakora, that's beautiful, like the powerful vibration. That's the poetic climax, isn't it?
I think so.
That single phrase elevates the biological transfer into this moment of tremendous resonating energy. It suggests a profound reaction that echoes throughout the flower's entire being.
It is the moment of synthesis, and the outcome is profound. Following this vibration, this transfer, the flower achieves a state of fulfillment, a diamond.
Right.
And if we bring that zoology lens back, this fulfillment is the successful transfer of pollen, which leads to seed production. It's survival.
So the poet is using the biological necessity of reproduction and survival, the highest biological goal, as the concrete parallel for human fulfillment, whether that's a relationship or a pursuit. The flower doesn't just feel good, it achieves its existential purpose.
Exactly. And the sweet, tangible evidence confirms the mission's success. There are honeydew drops just smeared on the bee's mouth. Oh, drink it, here's your go. This small, sticky detail confirms the successful and very sweet trifecta.
This whole fusion of tingling anticipation, magnetic attraction, profound resonance, and then the sweet evidence. It's where the biological transaction so beautifully models a successful, mutually beneficial relationship. It gives you a real blueprint for what a healthy, fulfilling connection should look like.
It's the highest compliment you can pay to observation. Taking something inherently natural and using its mechanics to teach us about ideal human behavior.
Let's move into the final layer of detail now, because the poem introduces these two highly specific, nuanced points that inject an even deeper philosophical meaning. It's not satisfied with just describing attraction, it models conduct.
Yes.
Let's look at this concept of temperance.
This is where J.S. Curran uses his observations to model ideal behavior, showing that, restraint is possible even within deep capitalism.
The poem discusses the affection, the this, of the bee, and notes that this devotion serves as an analogy of Kansayan, a 5-year Bhaktahar. And here is the truly fascinating part. The drunken bee. The drunken bee commodified, he never leans heavily on the nut. Why did he write him? That depiction of restraint is just one mark. The bee is full of nectar, maybe full of the joy of the successful interaction, but it respects the physical boundary of the flower. It doesn't exploit or overburden its host, even when it's intoxicated. It's incredible. It understands its job is to collect and leave, enabling the flower to move toward its fulfillment.
And I wonder if that detail came directly from his zoology studies. Is that temperate movement a known behavior, like a lightweight, calculated approach that's necessary for efficient pollination?
It could be.
And he then just elevated it into this metaphor for gentlemanly conduct. Well, that's the key distinction, isn't it? Whether it's a biological necessity that a heavy lean would damage the fragile mechanism and halt the transfer, or a purely moral observation, the poet chooses to frame it as ideal conduct. He uses the natural world to model ideal restrained purpose. The relationship is honored. It's not exploited or burdensome.
The ultimate gentleman.
Exactly.
Now let's balance that with the flower's perspective, because that's where vulnerability and anxiety come in. The poem introduces a conditional worry. If the bee is unaware of the situation, take her on up in Filmtown, it causes worry for the flower.
Thank you, woman.
It causes worry for the flower. Welcome, King.
This adds such a layer of depth. The flower state of fulfillment is completely dependent on the bee's specialized knowledge and purposeful action. The anxiety comes from the possibility of, what, unrequited or unacknowledged attraction.
Or maybe just the failure of the bee to complete the task. Right. So the flower actively sets its magnetic nets. It tingles with anticipation. But all of that preparation is rendered moot if the expert agent, the bee, is simply unaware of the context or the need.
It shows that even a perfect setup requires acknowledged connection to succeed.
It highlights the mutual dependency, but also the fragility of the intended outcome. The flower knows what it needs, but it has to rely on the expert to fulfill the contract of the relationship. The failure to recognize the flower's need means anxiety and, well, a lack of purpose fulfillment for the flower. It's a beautifully concise analogy to the risk inherent in any purposeful connection.
That really does bring us full circle. So what does this all mean when we synthesize the sources for you, our listener?
Well, the core insight, and I think we've demonstrated it throughout the analysis, is this powerful synthesis of J.S. Kern's scientific observation and his poetic craft. His BSc in zoology gave him the technical language of, territorial behavior, specialized knowledge, biological need, and the fragile mechanics of interaction.
And his MA in English allowed him to take those precise observations, the magnetic nets, the tingling petals, the temperate drunkenness, and elevate them into a profound, resonant metaphor. He gives scientific data the emotional weight of a human drama.
The power of this poem lies in treating a simple, observed, natural process pollination with the gravity of a human relationship defined by anticipation, mutual dependency, temperance, and respect for fulfillment. The source material shows us that a deep, technical understanding of a subject doesn't limit creativity.
It provides the foundation.
It provides the dense, realistic foundation for the most compelling art.
Knowledge is only made richer when it is used to draw connections between seemingly disparate worlds, like the life cycle of an insect and the complexities of human conduct.
Precisely, and that's exactly what J.S. Kern achieved here.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Kalachi J.S. Kern's work and the beautiful intersection of science and literature. Thank you for sharing this fascinating source material with us.
Before we close, the poem detailed the fulfillment that comes with a successful interaction, the arrival of the bee resulting in the flower's God. And this raises an important question for you to think about. Considering the poem also described the flower's active role, setting magnetic nets and tingling with anticipation, how might understanding attraction and need from the perspective of the recipient, the flower, change the way you approach initiating connections, whether that's in learning something new or in your personal relationships?
Something profound for you to explore next time you see a bee near a flower. Until next time, keep digging, keep learning.